Good evening, and straight to the top story that must be discussed, must be highlighted. India needs to wake up to this horror. Just in the last 1 year, about 15,190 complaints on child sexual abuse, online child sexual abuse were filed and were received by the government. 15,190 complaints on the government's cybercrime portal. You know how many FIRs were filed? 31. Just 31. If you compare this, on an average, even if people are filing about 40 complaints with the government portal, in the year, only 31 FIRs were filed. It's clear that a dark world of online child pornography or child sexual abuse, abuse of helpless children for sadistic pedophiles is thriving. The problem is that even as this issue is getting serious, we don't seem to be able to catch up. But as a result, what has happened today is that the CBI came out and announced a decision that they are going to set up a special unit that will only look at such cases. While we welcome this move, what is appalling, in fact, is that the complaints of child abuse clips that the government received did not get the necessary response. But before I go across to our panelists, I want to quickly go across to Bhavtosh, who's got this story for us. And Bhavtosh, obviously, you know, there is a huge menace out there. What made the CBI decide to take this decision?
Tanvi, India's premier investigating agency, CBI, has decided to set up a special unit which will probe cases of child pornography, and this move will have a far-reaching implication in days to come. CBI, in a statement on Friday, said that this unit will have officers drawn from several other branches of CBI and will have powers to investigate cases across India. Earlier this year, 2 cases were given to CBI by foreign agencies. One of the cases involved a WhatsApp group which was set up by a person in Germany whose members were Indian nationals. CBI, in fact, registered a case and is presently probing that matter. CBI has also said that several complaints are from different states which does not have powers and expertise to probe such cases, and also that many of the complaints that they receive are from Interpol, and that's the reason why this unit has been set up. A report submitted by the Ministry of Home Affairs said that on government's own website there were 15,000 complaints last year about child pornography, but state governments only registered 31 FIRs. CBI has also said that number of cases of child pornography are growing day by day. In fact, they have also said that online content will now be closely watched by India's premier investigating agency.
Let's say good evening to Ritesh Bhatia, cybersecurity expert, Mr. Brijesh Singh, IG of Cybercrime Maharashtra, Advocate Ashish Kumar for Center for Child Rights, Bhaskar Ghosh, spokesperson of the BJP, NS Napinai, advocate with the Supreme Court and a cyber law expert, joining us this evening. But let me first go across to Mr. Bhaskar Ghosh and understand from him, Mr. Ghosh. All right, in fact, before I go across to him, let us bring our experts in right now. And Ritesh, I want to start with you. This is a little concerning, and obviously 15,000 complaints is probably not even as much as what the reality is. But of that, if we, in a year, we only file 30 complaints, what does that reflect?
I think it primarily reflects that there is not much awareness as to how heinous this entire thing is. I'm happy that, you know, you're doing this show again and again. Last month only, I think we did this show. So yet I feel there is not much awareness. There is no awareness in, like, with parents. There's no awareness with the children. There's no awareness with the school. So, and hence the number of complaints, you know, what they should be going and they should be talking, is like really these complaints are very, very low. So this awareness bit needs to increase quite a lot, Tanvi, I would say.
Let me just actually try and understand what the procedure is, and if indeed there are cases where, you know, it gets difficult to convert these complaints into actual FIRs. Mr. Brijesh Singh, if you can help shed some light here, because we were speaking the last time you were here. In fact, you know, because you brought it up, we also highlighted, and, you know, we were glad that we were able to tell more people and spread the awareness that there exists a portal of the government where you can go ahead and file complaints. But it's really pointless if there is no reaction to those complaints.
No, Tanvi, the situation is not as grim as you imagine it to be. See, out of these complaints, almost 3,000 complaints were received in Maharashtra. And I'll tell you why it converted only into 14 or 15 FIRs at the end. See, almost 70% of the complaints were not related to child sexual abuse material. So each of these complaints is examined. So the procedure is like this, that once a complaint is filed, the center sends it to the state has a nodal officer, the nodal officer has a team of specialized people. Center has taken care to build capabilities everywhere in each state where there is a specialized team which deals with this kind of material. So let's say its complaint comes to Maharashtra, we received around 3,000 complaints. Out of these 3,000 complaints, each was examined, and after examining, more than 70% of these complaints were about unrelated matters, not even cyber matters, not even child sexual abuse matters. So out of this, only the fit cases wherein we had evidence, wherein there was a crime committed, only those cases could be converted into FIRs. We'll be very happy to take up any number of FIRs. But the irony is that only these many number of cases could convert into FIRs. Otherwise, we are open to converting all of these cases to FIR. But the problem is that after examining each case, either they are not related to this, or they are repeat complaints, or there is no evidence attached, or there are other serious imperfections due to which these could not be converted into FIR. Let me also tell you that the center takes a review every month, and we have to discuss case by case as to why this was not converted into an FIR. So there is a monitoring mechanism, there is a capability at the state level, there is a state nodal officer, and there is a mechanism of checking each of these complaints and taking a decision on them. So let me tell you that this has been perfectly operating. There is no need to think that this portal is not working or that the number of FIRs are low. To anybody that wants to see, we can show them each complaint and see how it could not be converted into FIR or whether it could be converted into FIR. Tanvi?
Okay, so that's interesting what you say, that many of these are not directly related to child sexual abuse, but if there are genuine concerns and a cyber crime, does it get forwarded, Mr. Singh, to another department? Because a grievance is still a grievance that must be looked into.
Yes, so the procedure is so that whatever complaint is, let us say, see, we get many complaints about people having taken money from somewhere or about, phishing and wishing calls. So we do, send it to relevant or concerned departments. But this team of this particular mechanism of cybercrime.gov.in or CCPWC was set up specifically about protection of women and children online. And here, after examining each of these cases in detail, only the cases which could convert into FIR have been converted into FIR. The investigation has been duly taken up, and we have now good capabilities of investigating in each state. Center has taken care to establish labs, establish training, expertise in each of the states, and it has given sufficient funds to do so. So the mechanism is working very well.
Let me go across to our other panelists as well, and I'll start with NS Napinai. If you can help our viewers understand just what is it that we are dealing with, and if the governments are actually doing enough, because, like Ritesh was also pointing out, the menace is huge. I don't think 15,000 complaints to the government is even the tip of the iceberg. What are we looking at right now?
Tanvi, thank you for having me here. This journey started actually more than 2 years back. Actually, almost 3 years, I would say, when the Supreme Court took up this matter in a suo motu writ petition which was pending before it. I've been associated with the matter as amicus. The issue that started was, one, unequivocally, all of us accept that child pornography is a very heinous crime and it has zero tolerance for it. We need to find solutions which will root it out at the bud. So the first suggestion, which in fact I had put forth, was use of artificial intelligence tools to root it out at the stage of upload itself. Because once it's out there, it does not matter how quickly it is taken down, the damage is already done for the victim. That aspect of use of technology to root out this crime is still in the process of implementation. Let's take some reality bites here. Now, US has been in the fray in dealing with this problem for a very long time. One of the earliest organizations that was set up in the US is called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Now, NCMEC for short. They have been dealing with trying to take down CSAM material from online. Now, they are saying that from 98, when there was CSAM of about 3,000 imagery, today you can't imagine how it has grown. 2018 statistics are, there are 45 million. We are not talking in thousands. You're absolutely right, therefore, when you say 15,000 is not even the tip of the iceberg. So they say that there are 45 million imagery out there, and this is only what they've identified. And they are saying that the systems are at a breaking point, and neither the organizations nor government agencies are able to handle it. What we have done in India from this matter is, and it has happened very quietly, and therefore most people are not very familiar with this case or what it has achieved. What we have done is that through consensual process, social media platforms and the police have come together. All the things that Brijesh mentioned of CCPWC and then the cybercrime portal, etc., came out after this case started and committee was formed. So today, where do we stand? One, people have to remember that when it pertains to child abuse, reporting is mandatory under POCSO. We are not just dealing with the Information Technology Act, which defines child pornography. POCSO also comes into play, so mandatory reporting should be complied with as much as possible. And for that purpose only, in that cybercrime.gov.in, this portal, they have introduced, the government has introduced the option of reporting anonymously, so that people should not fear that by reporting they themselves will get victimized. So as a first step, people should take this as a holy grail to ensure that if they come across some content like this, they should definitely report it. The second aspect is, irrespective of who is reporting, the police have to take cognizance. And when it comes to child pornography, I think everybody is treating it very seriously. I'm sure they are immediately taking note of it and they are registering it. As far as I have seen from my personal experience, I have not had difficulty in terms of registration of complaints or for investigations to continue. Well, only when it is international or cross-border crimes, then there are delays and there are difficulties.
But I am only highlighting the data that's actually available on the government website. And Mr. Ashish Kumar, this is what the government website tells us. Now, whether it's because of issues of identification or issues of available evidence or categorization of what the complaint is and whether it's in the right category or the wrong category, fact of the matter is 15,000 people still reached out to the government. But action is, it only translated into action in 31 cases. Now, how do we fix this? How do we ensure that people are more aware of the procedure, of the evidence that has to be submitted for action to take place?
Thank you. Thanks, Tanvi, for inviting me here. I majorly deal with child sexual abuse cases in Delhi. And first of all, we need to understand that majority of cases, what we have in our society is with regards sharing improper text, sharing graphical contents, sharing vulgar messages, cyberbullying, revenge crimes, and criminal intimidation, sharing videos, and all these are associated with regular penal crimes as well, like the IPC crimes, which we deal on day-to-day basis. The problem which I see during trial and investigation is that capacity building is not there. It means our local police is not equipped with the technical knowledge or expertise. I appreciate the effort of the government on this point, that they have taken initiative and they have deputed this whole system of center and nodal officers, and who are expected to be very much trained to tackle all these issues. But the thing is, we have to ensure that there are prevention mechanism as well. Government has to take initiative on the point that how to prevent all these crimes. Say for the example, if we see one of any POCSO case wherein a child was abused by an adult accused, and we see that the video is circulated, then if we see that the approach of the investigating officers in the FIRs, we can, I must say that the investigating officers are not very much equipped with the knowledge, and they just want to keep it aside, and they just look on to the regular CRPC procedure, and these videos, these images on social media platform maybe, and we know that there are difficulties in taking evidences and getting sanctity proved in the court of law when we talk about the evidences taken out from social media platform like Facebook and WhatsApp, wherein the messages are very much encrypted. And it's in case if these evidences are not proved, then we cannot secure rightful conviction. And coming to your point that out of 15,190 cases, only 31 got recorded as a first information report. The problem may be, as Brijesh ji rightly said, that there 70% cases may be of some different nature. But what about the other 30% cases? I think 15,190, if we take out 30%, then that too is a big number, and 31 is very less. Then we must ensure that all cases has to be investigated and inquired into by people who are technically sound and who have been imparted with such training.
So let's talk about that, and let's talk about the fact if, and Ritesh, you also work with the authorities very closely on cases that come up in Maharashtra as well. Maybe, obviously, Mumbai could be an aberration, but we have a well-trained team here. But is that the experience, is that, what you've seen elsewhere as well? Are the authorities trained enough to handle these new challenges?
As far as the child sexual abusive material is concerned, it's a fairly simple thing. If you see that there is a particular video, they need to identify, it's pretty obvious that it is a child or it's or it's not. Once they have that, they have this particular portal wherein they go. Issue comes, Tanvi, where from the platform. If you ask me, as far as the officers are concerned, because I've also worked with the Maharashtra Cyber, they're equipped and they're technically quite good. It's not that, and this one is really not much of a rocket science also even for them as such. So the thing is, the support, they don't get much of support from the platforms. Now, for example, look at WeGo Lite. We have not heard about this particular chatting, this particular platform also, but much of the information goes from there. A lot of material gets distributed from the dark web, a lot from the WhatsApp. So, the support is very, very less from these platform providers. And that's the reason probably there is quite a lot of hesitation in, having an FIR. But wherever they have come to know, because that's my personal experience also, where, I have registered around about 5 to 6 on this portal, which Brijesh sir has mentioned. And I did get calls quite fast.
Okay.
So that way I can say, as far as the platform is concerned, our platform is concerned, and the police is concerned, I don't see much of an issue. It's more of these platform providers, from where all these is being distributed, is a bigger concern today.
So okay, so let's get to that point, and let me ask Ms. Nampinai that question. How do we deal with that? And in the past, Mirana has also highlighted many of these issues where it's been an international network, it's been an international racket. Many countries and agencies across many countries have to come together. All of them have different sets of laws. The platform that may be used maybe somewhere else in the world, is that the biggest challenge we're looking at then?
I would say cooperation between the police and the social media platforms is definitely mandatory, because without that, we are not going to get the speed needed to take down content like this. The second level is in terms of cooperation between multiple international how do I put it, law enforcement agencies. In fact, some of the largest rackets, Tanvi, have been brought down because of this kind of cooperation. But from a simple legal perspective of maybe a user or probably a victim, if I were to address it, the first level is that you have one of the most powerful weapons, not in terms of Section 91 or CRPC procedures, as somebody pointed out, or just the general IT Act provisions, but intermediary guidelines, intermediary laws, which is under Section 79 of the IT Act. It very clearly says that once a government authority or a court order is transmitted to the intermediary, if they do not act on it, then they are also complicit in the same manner as the person who uploaded that content. So people have to learn to use these kind of weapons that law has already put in place and make sure that content like this is not circulated at all. And if you find it, then it is taken down at the earliest possible time. One other issue I wanted to address, what you raised earlier with respect to the 15,000 cases, etc. One clarification on the cybercrime.gov.in is, today it is no longer only a site for offences against women and children. Today the site has been revamped to take any kind of cybercrime cases through online registration of complaints. But there is a separate drop-down which deals with offences pertaining to women and children, and the option for filing anonymous complaints is limited only to offences against women and children. When you talk about this, now what does the law say with respect to registration of FIRs? The police are entitled to do a preliminary inquiry, see whether a cognizable offence, meaning an offence which a police can take cognizance of, is made out, and then they may register. So we also have seen a lot of abusive and misuse of law situations where hastily complaints were registered. So taking some time to ensure that it is done properly is not wrong.
May I ask you this, if you can give us some examples for our viewers who are watching this, and if there are any victims, of this kind of an abuse, or families who've discovered this, if you can give us some examples so people can relate to that and then they know how to deal with it.
Yes, because, like when we talk about examples, I can tell you it is really horrific. Nobody who would have even had peripheral exposure to this kind of crime can even countenance any form of delay or countenance any form of, casualness in dealing with it. So you have a situation which is like, straightforward cases of abusive material. But you also have situation where innocent images are taken, and then there are these sites which are predominantly for pedophiles. And then they take a simple innocent photograph of a child, and you will find conversations which has innuendo, where they are actually imagining and creating scenarios around a child. Just imagine, I am ashamed to even have to talk about this, but this is what you find online. So when we talk about CSAM, we are talking about innocent images being misused, children being misused for creating CSAM, children being socially engineered in a way where, there was this one conference where we were talking about a situation where a child did not know that what she was doing in the confines of her home was actually being streamed live online on pornographic sites. So when she found out and the case was registered, her immediate reaction was that she was a perpetrator instead of the victim. Oh, I should have known better. I should have, children start believing that it's their fault. So it's a little scary. And of course, parents also go through the same angst where they think they made a mistake. In today's world, you cannot eschew technology. Everybody has to necessarily use technology. You are providing a smartphone to a child thinking you're protecting them. And today what is happening is you have situations where we are not just talking about children as victims. I think we also should take into account the problem of children as perpetrators also. Because you're arming them with a phone. Drishyam, the movie, was not just a story. These are things we see in real life, that it's a very serious possibility because they don't have the maturity or the responsibility an adult may or may not exercise. but you have already given them a smartphone, camera, everything in their hand, and it gets abused. So we need to figure out more innovative methodologies. What we are talking about of capacity building and awareness and all are things I've been doing for the last 20 years. So that's not going to help in itself. What we need is responsible action. Each one of us has to take responsibility for our action. We have to educate actually bottoms up. We are only talking about top down and the government responsibility, etc.
Yes.
Let's start educating our children. Let's make them aware of what the law is and what their rights and responsibilities are. Today, it's not only about entitlement. Today, we are dealing with an entitlement generation, which is fine. But let's also equip them with responsibility and awareness.
Okay.
You know, that's the best deterrent according to me. The next level will be, if in spite of that they do something, we have to protect them.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And awareness amongst the youngsters, awareness amongst their parents, more importantly,
Yes,
Ritesh.
absolutely.
So one example, like, you know, she pointed out, is if people are unaware, children are unaware, their laptops or phones may be able to record them constantly through the day. And that is being, you know, streamed somewhere. What are the other things that youngsters should be wary of?
See, firstly, I'll tell you, besides what Advocate Napinai has said, there are other things also. Even the youngsters, I don't know, they're getting some sort of a kick or a high. They are sharing a lot of their personal images with their friends.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about the obscene, nude, semi-nude to nude images. That is also some kind of fad that's coming up.
Right.
So because that is like, you know, we go to schools and all, we talk to them. So we come to know, okay, all these things are also happening. So these kids also need to realize that what they're doing, they are thinking it's just, you know, they just send it, it's one-on-one. There is nothing one-on-one on this particular, on this internet.
Right.
Secondly, parents. Parents don't have the consent of their own babies to put the pictures up.
Yeah.
I was just going through a report of Internet Watch Foundation. Pedophiles are nowadays, the age limit is going down. Now they are more interested in 3 months babies, babies of 3 months, 6 months. Can you imagine that? They derive pleasure from such small babies, and here parents are putting up their pictures over there. So they need to realize this.
So I'm just going to simply say this. So you're saying that new parents who have newborn children or any, you know, small 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, and their pictures that are being put online, they need to be careful because it's very easy to get access to these pictures because there's obviously no security left anymore on the internet, and there is a very high possibility that this could be misused.
Very high possibility. In fact, there are certain platforms on the dark web which says that we need pictures only of 1 year and below. So they need images like that. You know, when she was talking about 45 million images, if you'll see a big percentage is of 8 years and younger. In that also, there is a big percentage of 12 months and lower. So it is going that way, Tanvi. So right now, as Advocate Napinai said, that it needs to be a bottoms-up approach. I genuinely believe it needs to be that. Parents need to control. They need to understand. They need to understand what's happening. And then when they are handing over, I feel the time has come that some sort of parental controls need to be put on the mobile. It's not invading their privacy or anything like that. It's right now the times are so bad that a little bit of monitoring is extremely essential. So, you know, there is a software like Google Family Link, or there are some other parental controls you can put on your Wi-Fi, or worst come worst, just go and check. And more importantly, talk to the kids. Tell them what's happening. Probably they are not aware also. Once you make them aware, and if you tell them, okay, there are these portals.
I can understand that for, you know, youngsters, those below the age of 10 or 12, but teenagers these days are so much more aware, aren't they? You know, than their own parents about the pitfalls of the internet and technology, or they just don't?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
They aren't.
Yeah.
They pretend to be, but they aren't, because we hear cases every day, and we used to think, we would tell them, oh, we thought at least you would be better off than your parent.
Right.
No, they aren't.
Okay.
So I think school needs to make it compulsory that every 6 months or every 1 year, all these children should have a cybercrime awareness session.
Mr. Brijesh Singh, if I can come back to you on this aspect, because, you know, in your first answer, you also said that many of the times you're not able to take the case forward for lack of evidence. Now, for our viewers who are watching this today, and if some of them want to forward a complaint, if somebody has gotten a forward on WhatsApp, you know, a invite or a link like that, or have been victims of this themselves, what's the process? What all should they be sending into the government or the authorities for action to be taken?
So, you know, the process is, once you open the portal, the process is self-explanatory. It asks for particular fields. So now, wherever these fields are, please see to it that complete and cogent information and correct information is filled. Where there is no information, indicate that there is no information. Because if you upload a complaint and if you do not upload any evidence regarding that, or if the evidence does not match the contents of what you are saying, then it cannot be legally converted into an FIR. So please help police to take action on any of the complaints or any of the material which comes across to you. And we are there. The purpose of the portal is to help you. We are there to help you. We are equipped and we are willing to help you. Tanvi?
And don't delete the evidence. Most of the time, the parents just go and delete that thing, or the child deletes it. Don't delete it. Otherwise, you won't be able to help the cops. They delete whatever, you know, somebody has solicited, somebody has asked, somebody has sent. Don't delete, you know. So that evidence, the screenshot needs to be taken and it should be presented to the cops.
Okay, yes, you wanted to make a point, N.S. Napinai. Go ahead, please.
In fact, Tanvi, yeah, so I was just going to say, in fact, in the case I was mentioning to you earlier, one of the things that happened was WhatsApp changed its architecture, because earlier it only had a report and delete option. So we pointed out that then you would end up deleting evidence. So then they actually changed the architecture. So today, even the social media platforms understand the importance and they are mandated to retain this data. In law, they are mandated to retain this data with them. So the takedown is different from deletion. So people do not have to worry that then the content, even after they have found out, is going to be floating in the ether until police figure out their investigation processes. They don't have to worry about it like that. The content can be taken down for public view. But the platforms have to retain the metadata or the underlying evidentiary details for helping investigation.
All right, I'm completely out of time on this conversation, but I really appreciate all of you joining us and, you know, bringing about all of this information for the awareness of our viewers. It's a massive menace, you know, and we've repeatedly brought to you examples, international rackets that have been busted across many countries. The CBI has now obviously acknowledged just how big this problem is to set up a special unit, a separate unit within the India's premier investigative agency just to deal with online child sexual abuse cases. But the fight will only work, and we will only be able to win this fight if we all come together, if you and I are aware of literally what we are dealing with. And that was essentially the idea of also bringing in these experts. Of course, the government needs to also do a lot more. For whatever reasons, the 15,000 complaints are finally being made onto this portal, then 31 FIRs is really not the way to go forward. A lot more has to be done. And keep this in mind, 15,000 complaints is still a very small amount of the number of cases that may be happening. Many times people don't even realize. It's a dark, dark world out there on the internet. We need to come together if we have any hope of fighting it and beating this horrifying menace. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Here is a story that will really make you question just how serious is Enforcement Directorate about the cases, especially the high-profile cases that it investigates. Because this is massively embarrassing for what happened today for the Enforcement Directorate. Apparently, they have no qualms about copy-pasting their petitions, their legal responses. The Supreme Court pulled up ED for actually copying from a petition against P. Chidambaram for one of the replies in court against P. Chidambaram's bail. and pasting the same content, exactly the same, literally lifting it from one to the other and putting it in their petition against the bail application of DK Shiv Kumar. Now, the only common thread there may be that both of them are from the Congress party, Mr. Chidambaram and DK Shiv Kumar, but both of them are being investigated for very, very different cases. Yet, the Enforcement Directorate thought that the argument that they were making to oppose bail plea of Chidambaram and why he should be in jail can be the same argument for DK Shiv Kumar and why he should be in jail and his bail should be cancelled. In fact, you know how they got caught? And that's the most interesting part. They got caught because they didn't even realize that when they were copy pasting, the part where they referred to Chidambaram as the former Home Minister, even that part got included. So in ED's legal documentation to the court, they ended up calling DK Shiv Kumar former Home Minister. A very, very angry, obviously a very angry judge, Justice Nariman, said that this is no way to treat citizens. As for the appeal, the Supreme Court dismissed the appeal filed by the Enforcement Directorate, changing the bail that had been granted to Congress leader DK Shiv Kumar. The Delhi High Court, remember, had given him bail after he spent 30 days in jail over the money laundering charges that he faces. Meenakshi is joining me for more on this. Meenakshi, was there any explanation from the ED lawyer in the court when they got caught cheating? I mean, everybody says that you need to be smart when you cheat, but this is really embarrassing what ED did.
Well, absolutely, Tanvi. This is something that would put even nursery, kindergarten kids to shame, because this is the Supreme Court of India that we are talking about, where ED purportedly, which is a premier investigating agency, is contesting this bail that has been granted to DK Shiv Kumar. It is ED's application seeking cancellation of bail that is being argued, and you have the top law officer representing the ED, who is the solicitor, who had to unfortunately take and face the wrath of the Honorable Supreme Court bench, headed by Justice Rohinton Nariman. And clearly, there are two disparate matters involving two disparate high-profile accused. Number one, Mr. Chidambaram in the INX media case, and DK Shiv Kumar in a separate money laundering case, which has been mounted by the ED. So, to have this documentation be presented before the Honorable Supreme Court, where, like you rightly mentioned, the only reason this glaring lapse emerged is because DK Shiv Kumar has been referred to as former Home Minister, Union Minister of Finance, while in reality and factually speaking, Tanvi has only been an MLA thus far. Therefore, it was Honorable Justice Rohinton Nariman who slammed the top law officer appearing or representing the ED, saying, and I quote, "This is not the way people of this country should be treated, Mr. Mehta. You should read our dissent in Sabrimala review. It is for people like you to educate and instruct the officials that our judgments are not to be played with." Furthermore, he also went on to say, Tanvi, and I quote, "An impression is stuck. Your officers don't comply with our orders. Our orders must be complied with. We won't allow any violation," unquote. So, I mean, Tanvi, the top law officer was left on such a sticky wicket that he did not have adequate response when this particular copy-paste job caught the attention of the learned Supreme Court.
All right, Meenakshi Banja, thank you so much for bringing us this story. Really embarrassing for the Enforcement Directorate. I don't know if they actually simply ended up putting the wrong paper in that file, but just goes on to show how seriously they take these high-profile investigation cases involving big leaders and massive corruption charges or money laundering charges.